actually doing something new instead of playing video games now. And what we are going to do is actually talk about anime. Go figure. My channel actually originated talking about anime, and then it kind of moved over when I got a game capture card and playing video games. But we're kind of back to our roots with this video. And I would like to say the reason that I'm doing this video is because I've seen a lot of speculation and a lot of Shanks versus Mihawk, Shanks fans versus Mihawk fans, due to the recent art that Oda posted with basically most of the swordsmen in One Piece, and everyone's basically saying, oh, Shanks is a swordsman, confirmed. Now, to get into the meat and potatoes of this topic, I would like to say that, do I believe Mihawk is as strong as Shanks? And where do both sit on the upper echelon of the power scaling of One Piece? Because they're both top tier characters, obviously. I would like to also say, please keep everything civil in the comment section, and if you agree with me, then please let me know down below. And if you have other points that you want to make, then please feel free. Now, I would like to say that I personally don't think Mihawk at this point in time is stronger than Shanks. Now, you might be saying, but wait, Alex, Mihawk is the world's greatest swordsman. He's almost comparable to that of a Yonko, just without a crew. And to that, you could say, sure, that is a valid argument. But I will say, what I believe is that Mihawk actually, and no one has brought this up in the community, I believe that Mihawk actually was the world's greatest swordsman before ever meeting Shanks. And now, here's where the revelation comes. We know that Mihawk in this current age right now, or in this current story right now, is 43. Shanks currently, when I look this up, Shanks currently is 39. As starting of chapter 59 or 598 and onwards. So after time skip. So Mihawk has 4 more years of pirating experience than Shanks. Shanks, at the beginning of the series, so chapter 1 or episode 1, is 27. Meaning that Shanks probably, and we know this for a fact, Shanks has ran into Mihawk at least during the beginning of the series when he has met Luffy, because we know that after Shanks lost his arm, Mihawk stopped fighting him. So if we were to do some headcanon and kind of inference stuff, we can inference that Shanks probably along the way has met Mihawk, let's say when he's maybe in his early 20s, when he's maybe a starting pirate. Maybe he's had a little bit of experience under his belt. We don't know when he became a Yonko. People kind of just inference that he became a Yonko after the whole Fuchsia Village part, after the beginning, where he met Luffy, and then after he left to Luffy, he went on to become a Yonko. Or maybe he was already a Yonko at the Fuchsia Village. We don't know. But all I got to say is that Shanks, possibly in his early 20s, maybe mid 20s, or a little bit earlier than 27, I should say, ran into Mihawk. Mihawk already has that experience, right? Mihawk already has that experience on Shanks because he's been in the pirate game for about 4 more years longer than Shanks has. Meaning that Mihawk probably has already risen the ranks of swordsmen or beaten so many swordsmen, right? To where the world has already acknowledged that Mihawk was the world's greatest swordsman. And then we have an upstart like Shanks coming in and challenging Mihawk and 1v1ing Mihawk. But here's the kicker. I will like to say that none of them, sorry, voice crack, but none of them actually have won. As in the time before One Piece officially started, or Luffy met Shanks, let's just say that Mihawk and Shanks clashed, and we know that they clashed several upon times. We don't know when they clashed or what age they clashed at, but we know that they clashed several times. Their battles have been heard around the world. Now, by thinking this, you could say that Shanks is clashing with the world's greatest swordsman at the time. So let's just say Mihawk has been the world's greatest swordsman even before the whole series has started, even before Shanks started getting his name out. And maybe Shanks got his name out in the world because of the clashes with Mihawk, because of the clashes with the world's greatest swordsman. And that's how Shanks has notoriety. Instead of, being a part of Goldie Rogers' crew, because if he was a part of Goldie Rogers' crew, then wouldn't you think that he would have been hunted down? Maybe you could inference that Shanks has been being a member on Goldie Rogers' crew on the down low, and he only says it to a few people. Or maybe Mihawk thought since Shanks was a member of the Goldie Rogers crew, he was a worthy opponent. So they clash. They probably don't defeat each other, or maybe Shanks defeats Mihawk sometimes and Mihawk defeats Shanks some other times. But in my personal headcanon, I could say that they clash, nothing happens, and Mihawk and Shanks just tie. They just stalemate. And to put that in basically like wrestling terms, if there's a world championship, the only way that in a one-on-one, a normal match, the only way the world championship can lose that belt is either pinfall or submission. But if they get disqualified, or if they get counted out, or both members get counted out, or both members are unable to beat each other by the allotted time limit, shouts out to AEW, the champion doesn't lose the title. The championship doesn't lose the title. So that means if Shanks could never beat Mihawk at that point in time, Mihawk does not lose the title of world's greatest swordsman. They just stalemate. Shanks goes on his way, Mihawk goes on his way, and that's it. That's it. Meaning, from the beginning of One Piece, or before the beginning of One Piece, Mihawk was already the world's greatest swordsman. Shanks has never beaten Mihawk. They've only tied. And then upon meeting Luffy, Shanks loses his arm to the Sea King, obviously. And thus, Mihawk deems... Wait a sec. Thus, Mihawk deems Shanks as not a worthy opponent. And you guys might be saying, but wait, Shanks is a Yonko now. Why does Mihawk just denounce him as a worthy opponent? Think about this in the mind of Mihawk. What does he have to gain to fighting Shanks now? He can either win against Shanks if people think that Mihawk is stronger than Shanks, which I'll get into that. And the reasonings why I don't think that. Mihawk, if he wins against Shanks, then everyone in the world would look at Mihawk saying that, oh, he only won because Shanks lost an arm. And then, if he loses to Shanks, then that means that, oh, the world's greatest swordsman lost to a guy with one arm. Despite him being a Yonko, we know how formidable that Mihawk is, but it's kind of a lose-lose situation if he does try to face Shanks at this point in time of the story. He won't get any more respect or any more clout on his name, and he just and there's like no point, or what I'm trying to say is like there's no point of him trying to fight against Shanks, because either he's going to look like a chump no matter which way he fights Shanks. Oh, he fights a one-armed person or a handicapped person, as people might think in the world of One Piece, or like the civilians might think in the world of One Piece. Oh, Mihawk fought a one-armed person. Wow, how could Mihawk really stoop that low? Or wow, Mihawk lost to a one-armed person. Maybe Mihawk wasn't really that great of a swordsman. Mihawk can't fight Shanks anymore due to that. And Shanks, going on from Fuchsia Village, I don't know if Shanks was a Yonko at that time. Maybe he was a Yonko a little bit before that time. Maybe he was a Yonko fighting Mihawk when he had both of his hands. We don't really know those details. If Shanks did go on to eventually become a Yonko, couldn't you inference that Shanks probably got stronger than Mihawk? I'm not going to say Mihawk wasn't training or Mihawk didn't get any more skills himself, but maybe Shanks just had leaps and bounds of just hockey expertise, hockey training, and he just completely surpassed Mihawk. But at the same time, Mihawk's not going to challenge Shanks, and we can't really give Shanks the title of the world's greatest swordsman. It kind of works like that. Now, if Shanks was a Yonko while fighting Mihawk, then that just means Mihawk's on the same level as Shanks, and no one's stronger than the other. But to me, I feel like Shanks is a little bit stronger than Mihawk, due to how the flow of the story is going. Now, this gets me into my next point. Luffy's ultimate goal is to surpass all the Yonko to become the Pirate King. Whether that means fighting Shanks or something happens to Shanks in the story to the point where he can't actually fight Luffy anymore, if he's dead or severely injured, or he just doesn't fight Luffy anymore, or something. I don't know, but let's just say that. Luffy's goal is to surpass the Yonko, right? Why would Mihawk be stronger than Shanks? It would make absolutely zero sense in the story. We know that Luffy not only has to be stronger than the Yonko, but he has to be stronger than his crew. As of when we looked at Fishman Island, when Luffy basically knocked out all those fishmen, or those fisherman pirates underneath Hody Jones, Zoro stated that if he couldn't do that, or if he couldn't knock out that many people, then Zoro would have to be the captain of the crew. So Zoro obviously is not... Zoro knows his place. He obviously knows that he is not as strong as Luffy in this current time of One Piece. He is strong. He is pretty much the second strongest member of the crew, a little bit ahead of Sanji, or if Oden wants to portray Sanji and Zoro as the same levels of strength with their different skills, then that's something else. But we all know that Luffy is stronger than Zoro. Luffy has to be this strong to fight other Yonkos. Zoro's goal is to just be the world's greatest swordsman. Yes, that's going to be a mountain in of itself to get over. That's a challenge. But Zoro's goal isn't to be stronger than the Yonko, it's to be stronger than Mihawk. Meaning that if Mihawk was as strong as a Yonko, that means why haven't the world government acknowledged this? Now, we know he's basically, without a doubt, the strongest warlord, and Mihawk probably sits in a very awkward power scaling spot where he might be stronger than the admirals but lower than the Yonkos, or Mihawk might just be stronger or strong as like Aka Inu or just an admiral. but Zoro's goal stops when he defeats Mihawk. Luffy's goal does not stop until he defeats and surpasses every one of the Yonkos to become the Pirate King. And if Mihawk was stronger than any of the Yonkos, whether it's Shanks or Blackbeard, Kaido or Big Mom, right? That means that Mihawk is basically like Mihawk stands in the way of being the Pirate King. That would throw off all of the story. It would make zero sense. It would be a gigantic plot hole, and Oda doesn't really do a lot of plot holes. He's very good at covering his tracks and making sure everything is interconnected. So, and to also go on through just sheer power scaling and whatnot, we can also inference that Mihawk himself, upon the Marineford arc, he wanted to test himself against the world's strongest man as of Whitebeard at the time, right? We all know Shanks and Whitebeard has clashed, split the sky before that point in time. So why was Mihawk actually getting why was Mihawk getting trouble or having so much trouble get to Whitebeard by his commanders? Not saying that the commanders were as strong as Mihawk, but they were slowing him down enough to where Mihawk couldn't get to Whitebeard. So that should probably tell you that in the grand scheme of things, Mihawk probably doesn't stand toe to toe to sick Whitebeard from Marineford arc. And another thing I would like to say is that think about all the other strong characters that uses swords but are not considered swordsmen in the grand scheme of things. Look at Big Mom. Napoleon is a sword. She uses Napoleon to throw off Elbaf spears. Would you consider Big Mom to be a swordsman? She uses a sword. Is she a swordsman? Who knows? But what I can inference is that Big Mom has never decided to fight Mihawk for that title. And if she did fight Mihawk for that title, there's a good chance that Mihawk would just completely lose, because Big Mom is very powerful, right? People like Queen and Jack and King, they use swords. Cracker, he uses a sword. They're really strong. Smoothie uses a sword. They're really strong combatants. Not saying that Mihawk would lose to them. Mihawk would pretty much win against them, but they would give Mihawk a run for his money because they're commanders. They're Yonko commanders, so they obviously are strong in the grand scheme of things. But I feel like a lot of people overestimate the world's greatest swordsman. Being the world's greatest swordsman probably doesn't mean that Mihawk has faced every single swordsman in the world of One Piece. Being the world's greatest swordsman means that Mihawk probably defeated the previous greatest swordsman somewhere along the lines of his pirate journey. And then he was just granted that title by the world. And so anyone else seeking that title out would have to go and face Mihawk to test his might. Maybe Shanks just doesn't really care about the title, and maybe Shanks was just having basically a duel for fun. Maybe Shanks wasn't really aiming to beat Mihawk. Maybe Shanks was never aiming to take the title of world's greatest swordsman off of Mihawk. Maybe Shanks' goal was to measure himself up to the world's greatest swordsman, measure his swordsman skills up to the current world's greatest swordsman. They clash. It's a stalemate. Shanks goes on his own pirate adventure, becomes a Yonko, or is already Yonko. Mihawk stays the world's greatest swordsman because no one has officially beaten him or surpassed him. Zoro's goal, and the funny thing is that no other swordsman has had Zoro's mindset in One Piece. Zoro's whole goal is to legit beat Mihawk, like I previously said. No one who uses a sword in One Piece has that goal. They have different goals. So in order to become the world's greatest swordsman, they would have to go through Mihawk just to cement themselves as the world's greatest swordsman. And people as strong as Big Mom, who uses a sword that you can consider as a swordswoman, she just doesn't want the title. She doesn't care about it. she, like, if she wanted that title, if she was literally that driven to be considered the world's greatest swordsman, she could probably just go in with Mihawk, Elbaf spear Mihawk, and not saying Mihawk is obviously going to get low diffed, but it's going to be a high difficulty fight, or an extreme difficulty fight. But the chances of Mihawk coming out of that isn't very great for Mihawk. Let's just be frank. Big Mom is on another level of just insane strength. So what I'm basically trying to say is, if any one of the Yonko who's a swordsman and who wants to actually get that title, they could probably just get that title if they wanted to. But they are more concerned of other things, as in being the pirate king or queen in Big Mom's case, and trying to get the poneglyphs, or trying to take care of their own territories, or get more territories, or try to fight Luffy, or stop the worst generation, or have run-ins to the world government. They're not concerned with Mihawk. So for this point of the story, Mihawk doesn't need to be stronger than the Yonkos. Mihawk can just be Mihawk. No one is going to touch his title. The only person who's going to come close to touching his title is legit Zoro, because that's his goal. No one else's goal in One Piece is to become the world's greatest swordsman. Even when Zoro fought other swordsmen, they never have stated that they wanted to become the world's greatest swordsman. They might have known about Mihawk, but that's not really their goal, is to beat Mihawk. And with all that being said, that is my 2 cents in this whole debate. Let me know what you think about it. Leave me a like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And hopefully you check me out on twitch.tv/AnimeALX and my other videos on YouTube. And all that being said, peace out, all my fellow weebs and weebettes. See you in the next one.